Captain Du Young Kim stood at the viewing window of Harmony's crowned space station, watching the stars. His reflection showed a calm face, but his eyes held hidden thoughts. 20 years of playing nice with the Galactic Council had taught him patience. Still, some days were harder than others. "Captain, the council meeting starts in 10 minutes, Lieutenant Hae Park said from behind him. She held a data pad in her hands, her uniform perfectly neat as always. Do Young turned and nodded. "Any new surprises we should know about?" 3 more trade restrictions added to the agenda, Hae said. Her voice stayed steady, but her fingers tightened on the pad. "They want to limit the size of our cargo ships again." Do Young allowed himself a small smile. If only they knew what those cargo ships really carried. Well then, we shouldn't keep them waiting. They walked through the station's wide corridors. Beings from 100 different worlds moved around them. Many stepped aside when they saw the humans coming. Not out of respect, out of fear. Humans were Deathworlders after all. Dangerous creatures from a harsh planet that somehow managed to join galactic society. The council chambers were huge, with seats rising in circles like an ancient theater. Du Young and Hae took their places in the human section. Security Chief Ji-Hoo Lee was already there, looking through reports on his pad. "Anything interesting?" Du Young asked quietly. Ji-Hoo shook his head. "Just the usual." The syndicate representatives filed another complaint about our mining operations in the Outer Rim. They say our ships move too fast for their tracking systems. "How unfortunate for them," Hae said, her face perfectly serious. Only someone who knew her well would catch the tiny spark of amusement in her eyes. The council leader, a tall being with silver skin, called the meeting to order. First item: proposed restrictions on Deathworld vessel specifications. Do Young noticed how they never said human vessels, always Deathworld, always reminding everyone that humans were different, dangerous, not quite civilized. A representative from the Trade Federation stood up. Their 4 arms moved in practiced gestures as they spoke. "The current size of Deathworld cargo vessels poses tracking difficulties for our systems. We propose limiting their mass to 1/4 current specifications." Do Young raised his hand calmly. When the council leader nodded, he stood. The current specifications were agreed upon in the Gateway Treaty 15 years ago. Our entire trade fleet is built to those specifications. Changing them now would cripple our ability to maintain supply lines to our colonies. Perhaps, the Trade Federation representative said, the Deathworlders should have considered that before building such aggressive vessels. Do Young kept his face neutral. The ship's size had nothing to do with tracking problems. The Syndicate and Trade Federation simply couldn't accept that human technology had advanced so quickly. They assumed there must be something suspicious about ships that could move so efficiently. They were right, of course, but not for the reasons they imagined. "We will comply with any restrictions the Council passes," Du Young said smoothly. "However, we request a 5-year adaptation period to modify our fleet." 5 years would be more than enough time to implement the changes they'd been planning anyway. Let the Council think they were forcing humans to limit themselves. It made them feel better. The debate went on for hours. Du Young noticed Hae taking careful notes, while Ji-Hoo watched the other representatives. They'd worked together long enough to have their roles down perfectly. Hae tracked the political moves, Ji-Hoo watched for security threats, and Du Young kept their true capabilities hidden behind a wall of perfect diplomatic courtesy. During a break, they gathered in a quiet corner of the reception area. Other species gave them plenty of space, as usual. "They're getting bolder," Ji-Hoo said quietly. "These restrictions aren't just about trade anymore. The Syndicate is pushing to limit our military response capabilities." Hae nodded. "They think if they can restrict our ship sizes, they can control how many weapons we can transport. They still believe our technology is at the same level as when we first joined the Council." "Let them believe it," Du Young said. He watched a group of Syndicate representatives across the room. They were trying not to look like they were watching the humans. It's worked for 20 years. It can work a little longer. A soft chime announced the end of the break. As they walked back to the chamber, Hay Newell moved closer to Du Young. Sir, there's something else. My cultural exchange sources say there's growing support for classifying Earth as a quarantine world. Du Young's steps didn't falter, but his mind raced. A quarantine classification would give the Council authority to restrict all travel to and from Earth. They'd tried it before, right after humans first reached the stars. It hadn't worked then, but now they had more political support. They fear what they don't understand, Jihu said. And they don't understand why their primitive Deathworlders have managed to match their technology so quickly. They understand less than they think, Du Young said. He touched the small pin on his collar, a simple Earth tree design that doubled as a quantum communicator. Every human on the station wore one. Every human ship carried similar hidden capabilities. The afternoon session was worse than the morning. New trade restrictions were just the start. The Council proposed limits on human colony expansion, restrictions on what technology humans could purchase, and even controls on human population growth in space. Du Young accepted it all with diplomatic grace. He suggested reasonable compromises. He played the role of the grateful primitive, happy to be allowed a place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Inside, he remembered the oath he'd taken as a captain in the Earth Defense Force. Patience before power, wisdom before war. But when war comes, hold nothing back. That evening, in his private quarters, Du Young sent his daily report through the quantum communicator. Earth had to know how quickly things were changing. The Council's fear was leading them toward dangerous decisions. Hay Newell brought him the day's final summary as he finished the report. Sir, she said, Security Chief Lee asked me to tell you. There's movement near the Artemis colony. Syndicate ships, staying just outside regular sensor range. Du Young looked at the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, human ships waited in silent mode, their true nature hidden behind falsified energy signatures and careful deception. 20 years of playing nice, of letting other species think they tamed the dangerous Deathworlders. Thank you, Lieutenant, he said. Let's hope tomorrow brings better news. But they both knew it wouldn't. The Syndicate was pushing harder. The Council was giving in to fear. Sooner or later, someone would make a mistake. And when that happened, the galaxy would learn why Earth stories always warned. Beware the nice ones. Du Young touched his communicator pin again, sending one last message for the day. Status green. Maintain diplomatic protocols. For now. The for now wasn't strictly necessary in the message, but after another day of smiling and bowing to barely hidden insults, after watching his species being treated like barely civilized animals, he felt the need to remind himself. This was a choice. Every human on this station, every human ship in space, every colony and outpost, they were all choosing to play nice. They were choosing to let the Council and the Syndicate think they were in control. Because sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you show. It's the one you keep hidden until you need it. Through his window, Du Young watched a human trade ship dock at the station. Its energy signature read as a simple cargo vessel to the Council's sensors. Its hull looked like basic human engineering. Everything about it said primitive Deathworlder technology. He smiled slightly, remembering the old Earth saying, "Things aren't always what they seem." The Council would learn that lesson eventually. He just hoped they learned it before they pushed too far. The emergency alarm woke Du Young at 300 station time. He was dressed and moving before the second tone finished. Lieutenant Hay Newell Park met him in the corridor, her face tight with worry. Distress signal from Artemis Colony, she said as they rushed to the command center. Heavy attack. Multiple ships. Security Chief Jihu Lee was already at his station when they arrived. The main screen showed a tactical display of the Artemis system. Red dots marked enemy ships. There were many of them. Syndicate vessels, Jihu said. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel 20 minutes ago and started bombing the colony's outer defense ring. Du Young studied the display. Casualties. Unknown. The colony's communications are damaged. We only got part of their distress call. Artemis was home to 50,000 people. Farmers, miners, families. People who trusted the Council's promises of protection. People who were dying while bureaucrats argued about proper procedures. The Council Emergency Response Team. Du Young asked, knowing the answer already. Hainul's voice was bitter. They say they need to verify the attack and get proper authorizations. It could take hours. Hours we don't have, Jehu added. He pointed to new data flowing across his screen. The Syndicate ships are using high-powered weapons, military grade. They're not pirates or raiders. This is a planned military strike. Do Young touched his communicator pin. The quantum link connected instantly to Earth Command. He sent the tactical data and a simple message. Green status compromised. Artemis under attack. The response came back in seconds. Hold position. Maintain diplomatic protocols. Do Young looked at his officers. They'd all received the same order. Their faces showed the same struggle he felt. Keep playing nice while their people died. Keep pretending to be simple primitives while a colony burned. Sir, Hainul said softly. Council representatives are gathering for an emergency session. They want us there. The council chamber was half full when they arrived. Species from across the galaxy sat in their usual places, talking in quiet groups. The syndicate seats were empty. The council recognizes the human representative. The council leader announced as Do Young took his place. We understand your colony has reported some kind of incident. Some kind of incident. As if 50,000 lives weren't at risk. As if it was a minor problem to be discussed over tea. Artemis colony is under military attack, Du Young said. He kept his voice steady through years of practice. We request immediate assistance under Article 7 of the Mutual Defense Treaty. The Trade Federation representative stood. This is a serious claim. We need to verify the attacker's identity before we can authorize any military response. Perhaps this is simply a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Hainul's voice cut through the chamber. She had stood up, breaking diplomatic protocol. Our sensors show 23 warships bombing civilian targets. What kind of misunderstanding involves military-grade weapons? Please control your subordinate, representative, the council leader said to Du Young. This body must follow proper procedures. Jehu's pad beeped. He looked at it, then passed it to Du Young. The message was simple. 3 more colonies had gone silent. This wasn't just an attack. It was an invasion. Do Young stood slowly. Honorable Council, while we debate procedures, people are dying. I must insist on immediate action under the emergency response protocols. Insist. A new voice spoke from the chamber entrance. The syndicate's lead representative walked in, followed by his delegation. The Deathworlders forget their place. They do not insist on anything in this chamber. The syndicate leader took his seat calmly, as if he hadn't just arrived late to an emergency session about an attack his people were launching. We have reports, he continued, of dangerous military buildups in human colonies. Perhaps what our ships discovered required immediate action to protect galactic peace. Do Young felt something snap inside him. Not in anger, in clarity. They had planned this. The council knew. Maybe not all of them, but enough. The trade restrictions, the delays, the constant diplomatic games, it had all been leading to this. His communicator pin vibrated. A new message from Earth Command. Confirmation received. Colony losses verified. New orders. Execute Protocol Awakening. Authorization code. Earth remembers. Do Young looked at Hainul and Jehu. They straightened slightly, acknowledging the order. 20 years of hiding what humanity could really do. 20 years of playing nice. The Human Federation wishes to submit new evidence, Du Young said. His voice had changed. No more diplomatic smoothness. No more careful deference. He pressed a button on his pad. The chamber's main display lit up with new data. not the limited sensor readings they usually shared. Real data from human sensors that were far more advanced than anyone in the room suspected. These are energy readings from syndicate military bases taken over the last 6 months, he said, showing fleet buildups, weapons testing, and staging areas for today's attacks. We have similar readings from Council military installations that supported them. The chamber erupted in shock, not at the attacks, at the fact that humans had technology that could gather this kind of data. Technology they weren't supposed to have. How dare you spy on Council facilities? The Trade Federation representative shouted. This is a violation of all protocols. No, Du Young said quietly. This is survival. Humanity joined your council in peace. We followed your rules. We smiled at your insults. We let you think we were simple primitives you could control. He looked at the syndicate leader. That was our choice, just like attacking our colonies was yours. Hanul and Jihu moved to stand beside him. Around the chamber, other humans were doing the same. Their communicator pins glowed softly now, showing their true nature as quantum-linked combat computers. What is the meaning of this? The council leader demanded. This, Du Young said, is humanity deciding to stop being nice. His communicator lit up with new signals. Across the station, hidden systems were activating. Human ships were dropping their false energy signatures. And in the darkness between the stars, vessels that no one had ever detected were beginning to move. The chamber's tactical display changed as new signals appeared. Not 23 syndicate ships attacking Artemis Colony. Over 100 human vessels, emerging from stealth modes that the Council had thought impossible. We chose peace, Du Young told the silent chamber. We chose diplomacy. We chose to let you underestimate us, because we believed peace was worth the cost. He looked at the display, where human ships were already moving to save Artemis Colony. Ships that had been there all along, waiting and watching. You chose to mistake kindness for weakness. That was your error. The syndicate leader stood, his face dark with rage. You dare threaten this council. You are nothing but savages from a death world. We will. You will be silent, Haynul said. Her voice carried the weight of 20 years of swallowed insults. The time for threats is over. Now you get to see what Deathworlders can really do. Outside the station, more human ships were appearing, not simple trade vessels now. Their hulls were shifting, weapon systems emerging from hidden compartments. Decades of human engineering, carefully concealed behind a mask of primitive technology. This session is adjourned, Du Young announced. Humanity has some colonies to save. We can discuss proper procedures afterward. As they walked out of the chamber, Jihu's pad showed new tactical data. The syndicate ships at Artemis were already retreating, shocked by the sudden appearance of human warships they hadn't known existed. Sir, Haynul said quietly. Earth Command reports all fleet units responding. Operation status is now active. Du Young nodded. The time for playing nice was over. Now the galaxy would learn why every human child grew up hearing the same warning. Beware those who choose to be kind. They can also choose to stop. Commander Sun Ma-Choi sat in the captain's chair of the Earth vessel Morning Calm. For 20 years, her ship had pretended to be a simple trade vessel. Today, that pretense would end. All systems showing green, her first officer reported. Transformation sequence ready. Sun Le looked at the tactical display. The syndicate ships attacking Artemis Colony still hadn't noticed them. They thought they were hunting helpless prey. They were wrong. Begin transformation, she ordered. Show them what we really are. Across space, every human ship received the same order. The careful masks they had worn for so long fell away. Hull plates shifted, revealing hidden weapon systems. Engines that had always operated at 10% power now showed their true capability. The Morning Calm's bridge transformed around Sunmai. Holographic displays appeared, showing the ship's real combat capabilities. Her crew removed the simple uniforms they wore for council inspections, revealing combat gear underneath. Multiple Syndicate vessels detected, her tactical officer reported. They're starting to notice us. Of course they are, Sun Mai said. Let them see. Let them understand what they've awakened. The Syndicate ships tried to react. They turned their weapons toward the suddenly appearing human fleet. But they were slow, confused. They had trained to fight the primitive human ships they thought they knew. Not these vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere, moving with impossible speed. Major Taiwan Kang's voice came over the command channel. His special operations team had been waiting for this moment. Strike teams ready, Commander. Permission to show them how Deathworlders really fight. Permission granted, Major, Sun Mai said. Remember the rules of engagement. We're here to stop them, not destroy them. Taiwan's strike ships launched from their hidden bays. They were smaller than regular shuttles, faster than anything the Council races had. The Syndicate ships tried to target them, but their weapons were too slow. First wave of strike teams has breached enemy vessels, Taiwan reported. They never upgraded their internal defenses, still designed to stop the weapons they thought we had. Sun Mai watched the tactical display as human forces took control of Syndicate ships one by one. No destroying ships full of crew members. No needless death. Just quick, precise operations that showed the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. Commander, her communications officer called out. We're receiving messages from other Council races ships in the area. They want to know if we need assistance. Sun Mai allowed herself a small smile. Tell them thank you. But no, this is a human matter now. On her tactical display, she could see similar scenes playing out across human space. The Syndicate's carefully planned attack was falling apart. Their ships were being captured or forced to retreat. Their ground forces, where they had managed to land, found themselves facing colonial defense forces that were far better equipped than anyone had suspected. Message from Earth Command, her communications officer reported. The Council is in emergency session. They're demanding to know how we hid all this. Send them my personal response, Sun Mai said. Tell them we didn't hide anything. We just let them see what they expected to see. A new alert flashed on her display. A Syndicate heavy cruiser was powering up its main weapons, aiming at Artemis Colony's central dome. Not today, Sun Mai said quietly. Morning calm, battle stations. Her ship moved with grace that would have seemed impossible just hours ago. The Syndicate cruiser fired, but the morning calm was already between it and the colony. Energy shields that no one knew humans possessed absorbed the blast easily. Target their weapon systems, Sun Mai ordered. Disable only. Let's show them the difference between could and should. The morning calm's weapons were precise. One shot disabled the cruiser's main weapon. Another took out its engines. No hull breach. No casualties. Just a clear message. We could destroy you, but we choose not to. All Syndicate forces in the Artemis system are disabled or retreating, her tactical officer reported. Major Kang's teams have secured their command vessels. Sun Mai opened a channel to all human forces in the area. Remember your training. We're not here for revenge. We're here to show them that being peaceful was a choice. Reports came in from across human space. The Syndicate's attack had failed everywhere. Their ships were captured or retreating. Their ground forces were surrendering to colonial defenders who had shed their farming tools for hidden weapons. Commander, her communications officer said, Captain Kim is sending updates from the Council station. The Syndicate representatives are demanding we return their ships. Sun Mai considered this. Send them my response. Their ships will be returned when our colonies are secure. Unlike them, we believe in solving problems without destruction. She watched her tactical display as more Council ships arrived at the edge of the system. They kept their distance, watching as human vessels efficiently disabled or captured the remaining Syndicate forces. Message from Major Kang, her communications officer reported. They've accessed the Syndicate command ship's data cores. Confirmed that several Council members knew about the attack plans. Download everything, Sun Mai ordered. The Council wanted transparency. Let's give it to them. Show them every message, every plan, every detail of how they plan to attack peaceful colonies. A new alert caught her attention. One of the disabled syndicate ships was trying to activate its self-destruct sequence. "Not on my watch," Sun Mai said. "Deploy containment field. Show them another thing they didn't know we had." The morning calm projected an energy field around the syndicate vessel. The self-destruct sequence fizzled harmlessly against shields that operated on principles the Council races hadn't discovered yet. "All ships, status report," Sun Mai commanded. The responses came quickly. No human ships damaged. No colonial structures breached after the initial attack. The syndicate forces were contained, their crews under guard but unharmed. "Send word to Earth Command," Sun Mai ordered. "Artemis system is secured. Minimal casualties on either side. Though I suspect the syndicate's pride may take longer to recover." She looked at the tactical display one last time. The morning calm's true form was beautiful, she thought. All clean lines and efficient power, no longer pretending to be less than it was. "Commander," her first officer said quietly. "It feels good, doesn't it? Finally showing them what we can really do." Sun Mai nodded. "It does. But remember, we're not doing this to prove we're stronger. We're doing this to show them why we chose to be peaceful in the first place." Around them, the stars shone on a battlefield that showed exactly what happened when humans decided that being nice was no longer the best option. Not a single enemy ship destroyed. Not a single life unnecessarily lost. Just a clear, precise demonstration of the difference between choosing peace and being forced into it. "Send one last message to all syndicate forces in the area," Sun Mai ordered. "Tell them, this is what happens when Deathworlders decide to stop being nice. Remember it." The council chamber was completely full. Representatives from every spacefaring species had come to witness this historic session. Captain Du Young Kim stood at the center, no longer in the lower seats where humans usually sat. "The council recognizes the human representative," the council leader said. Their voice was different now. Gone was the tone of speaking to a lesser species. "You may present your evidence." Do Young nodded to Lieutenant Hainul Park. She activated the chamber's main display, showing the data recovered from syndicate ships. 3 months ago, Du Young said, members of this council approved a plan to attack peaceful human colonies. They believed we were too primitive to defend ourselves properly. They were wrong. The display showed messages, meeting records, and battle plans. Some council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others looked shocked as they realized how deep the deception went. "The syndicate's attack failed," Du Young continued. "Their ships were disabled. Their forces were captured. We did this without destroying a single enemy vessel or taking a single enemy life." Security Chief Ji Hu Lee stepped forward with more data. "Our response showed only a fraction of our true capabilities. We chose to use minimal force. Remember that." The Trade Federation representative stood up. "But how? How did you hide such technology from our inspectors?" "From our sensors." Do Young smiled slightly. "We didn't hide it. We showed you exactly what you expected to see. You believed humans were primitive, so you saw primitive technology. You chose not to look deeper." Commander Sun Mei Choi's voice came through the chamber speakers. Her ship, the Morning Calm, hung visible outside the station's windows. Its true form was magnificent. "The ships you thought were simple trade vessels," she said. "They were always warships. The colonists you thought were helpless farmers. They were always soldiers. We chose to be peaceful. That didn't make us weak." The syndicate leader, now under guard, spoke up. "You deceived this council. You broke every regulation about technology sharing." "No," Hainul said firmly. "We followed every rule exactly. We shared what we were required to share. We never lied about our capabilities. You simply assumed we couldn't have advanced so quickly." Do Young walked to the center of the chamber. "Humanity faced a choice when we reached the stars. We could show our strength immediately and risk starting wars, Or we could prove we knew how to use power wisely. He looked around the chamber. For 20 years, we chose peace. We chose diplomacy. We let you treat us as primitives because we wanted to show that true civilization isn't about having power. It's about choosing when not to use it. Major Taiwan Kang's voice joined the discussion. He was overseeing the captured syndicate ships. Every human ship could have destroyed its targets. Every soldier could have used lethal force. We chose another way. The council leader stood slowly. The council must know. What are your demands now? What price must we pay for this deception? Do Young shook his head. We don't want revenge. We want what we've always wanted. Peaceful cooperation between species. But this time, as equals. He gestured to the display, where it showed human ships helping repair the damage to Artemis Colony. Look at what we're doing right now. Not destroying. Building. Helping. Even those who attacked us. Ji-Hu brought up new data. We're sharing our shield technology with the colonies that were attacked, including non-human colonies. We're helping upgrade their defenses, because that's what civilized species do. But know this, He Newell added. If anyone mistakes our kindness for weakness again, we won't need 20 years to reveal our strength. We've shown you what happens when humans decide to stop being nice. The council chamber was quiet. Outside, more human ships were revealing their true forms. Decades of hidden power now visible to all. The council calls for a vote, the council leader announced, on the immediate removal of all restrictions on human vessels and technology, on the recognition of Earth as a full equal in galactic affairs. The vote was unanimous. Du Young looked at his team, He Newell's quiet strength, Ji-Hu's watchful eyes, and through the windows, Sun Mi's powerful ship. They had all carried this secret for so long. There's an old saying on Earth, he told the council. Judge someone not by how they treat their equals, but by how they treat those they think are beneath them. Remember that we chose peace when we could have chosen war. Remember that we showed mercy when we could have shown force. He touched his communicator pin one last time. Earth Command, this is Captain Kim. Protocol awakening is complete. New status. True peace through understanding. The response came back clear. Understood, Captain. The time for hiding is over. Now we show them who we really are. Do Young addressed the council one final time. For 20 years, you told stories about dangerous Deathworlders who needed to be controlled. Now you'll tell different stories. Stories about the day humans decided to stop being nice and chose to be kind instead. Throughout the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Humans weren't primitive Deathworlders who had somehow managed to reach the stars. They were equals who had chosen to hide their strength. Species that had looked down on humanity now looked up at their ships with new understanding. The council chambers slowly emptied as the session ended. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had shown not just their power, but their wisdom in how they used it. He Newell looked at the stars through the chamber's windows. Do you think they understand now? She asked quietly. Some do, Du Young replied. The rest will learn. Being nice isn't the same as being weak. Being peaceful isn't the same as being helpless. And humans, we're just getting started. Above them, the morning calm sailed past the window, its true form proud and powerful in the starlight. No more hiding. No more pretending to be less than they were. Because now every species would tell stories about the day Deathworlders decided to stop being nice and became something far more impressive instead. A civilization that knew the true strength was in choosing when not to use its power. 6 months had passed since the day humanity revealed its true capabilities. Captain Du Young Kim stood in his new office aboard Harmony's Crown Station. The view was better from the upper levels, where the human diplomatic section now resided. Lieutenant He Newell Park entered with the morning reports. The last Syndicate War Tribunal finished yesterday, she said. All the conspirators have been sentenced to rehabilitation programs instead of prison. Earth Command approved the mercy ruling. Good, Du Young said. Let them see how humans handle justice. How are the technology sharing programs proceeding? Better than expected. Commander Sun Mi reports that 15 species have completed the basic safety training. They're ready to receive the first wave of shield technology upgrades. The door chimed, and Security Chief Ji Hu Li walked in. He carried fresh data on his pad. The Council's new defense force is taking shape. 10 species have volunteered ships to train with our fleet. Do Yun looked out at the stars. Human ships moved openly now, their true forms no longer hidden. But they weren't alone. Vessels from other species traveled with them, learning and training together. Any word from the Colony Integration Project? He asked. Han Newell nodded. Major Taiwan's report came in this morning. The first joint colony is ready. Humans working alongside 5 other species, sharing technology and knowledge openly. There's more, Jehu added. The Council's scientific division made an interesting discovery. Remember how they thought we advanced too quickly? Turns out we didn't. We just looked at problems differently. He showed them the data. Other species had followed careful, predetermined paths of technological development. Humans had jumped around, solving problems in unexpected ways, finding solutions that others had missed simply because they hadn't thought to look. They're calling it the human perspective now, He Newell said with a small smile. Species are sending their scientists to Earth universities to learn how we think, not just what we know. The station's warning system activated suddenly. But this alert was different from 6 months ago. 3 syndicate ships had appeared at the edge of the system. Diplomatic vessels, Jehu reported calmly. Their new leadership requesting permission to dock. They're here for the technology sharing conference. Do Young remembered a time when such an arrival would have caused panic. Now it was routine. Former enemies coming to learn, to trade, to understand. Commander Sun Mi's report from the Joint Fleet exercises came in. He Newell said, the Syndicate's new ships are performing well. Their crews are eager to prove they can be trusted. Trust takes time, Du Young said. But they're learning. Everyone is. A group of young aliens walked past his office window. Students, from the look of their badges. The station now hosted the Galactic Exchange University, where species from across the galaxy came to learn from each other. The council meeting starts in an hour, Jehu reminded him. They're voting on the new Mutual Defense Treaty today, the one that treats all species as equals. He Newell added, no more talk of Deathworlders or primitives, just different peoples with different strengths. Do Young touched his communicator pin, no longer a hidden quantum device, but a symbol of human innovation that other species now wore proudly. Earth Command reports the last of the old trade barriers are gone, he said. Ships move freely now, but everyone follows the safety protocols we developed. It turns out most species prefer honest cooperation to forced compliance. The station's main window showed a new ship arriving. Its design combined elements from 3 different species, including human shield technology. The result was something entirely new, something that couldn't have existed before species started working together openly. There's a new saying spreading through the galaxy, He Newell said. When humans offer friendship, accept it. When humans offer help, take it. Because humans already know how strong they are. They don't need to prove it. Jehu's pad beeped with another update. The cultural exchange programs are expanding again. 17 species have applied to host human teachers in their schools. They want to learn how we think. And what are we learning from them? Du Young asked. That every species has something to teach, He Newell replied. We were so busy hiding our strength, we sometimes forgot to look for strength in others. That's changing now. A message from Commander Sun Mi appeared on the main screen. The Joint Fleet exercises had discovered a new way to configure shield harmonics. Human and syndicate engineers working together had found something neither species would have discovered alone. The council leader sent a private message, Jehu said. They're proposing a new position, a joint leadership role, shared between species. They want you to consider taking the first term. Do-young looked at his officers. What do you think? Are we ready for that level of responsibility? We were ready 20 years ago, Hanuel said. That's why we chose peace when we could have chosen war. Why we showed restraint when we could have shown force. The galaxy is changing, Jihu added. Not because we revealed our strength, but because we showed them why we hid it in the first place. We wanted peace more than we wanted power. Outside the window, ships from a dozen species moved in careful formation. The Joint Defense Fleet was practicing emergency response protocols, working together to protect all colonies, not just their own. Send word to Earth Command, Do-young said. The transition is proceeding as we hoped. Not through force, not through fear, but through understanding. Hanuel smiled. Should I include the latest saying they're teaching in alien schools? About what happens when you make humans drop their act? What are they saying now? When humans stop being nice, watch carefully. Not because they're dangerous, but because they're about to show you a better way to do things. Do-young looked at the stars again. Humanity had hidden its strength for 20 years, waiting for the right moment. Not to dominate, but to elevate. Not to rule, but to help. Schedule a meeting with the council leader, he said. It's time to discuss the next phase. We've shown them who we are. Now let's show them who we can all become together. The galaxy was learning. The stories weren't about fear anymore. They were about hope. About what happens when species stop seeing each other as threats or primitives and start seeing each other as equals with different gifts to share. Because the day humans decided to stop being nice wasn't the end of a story, it was the beginning of a better one.